This is Recipe for Sleep, a podcast where we dust off very old cookbooks and let them lull us into dreamland. I'm Erin Brindley, a chef and storyteller. Tonight, we return to one of my favorites. From the year 1900, 365 Desserts. We started this book in episode 3, where we read January and February. Tonight, we'll begin in March and read through the recipes of March and April. Like the last few episodes, these are the type I love. Short little narratives that are written for very skilled cooks. I've spent the last couple years adapting the recipes I created for Cafe Nordo for the home cook, painstakingly describing every detail. So I'm tickled by recipes like the one for custard pie. 1 heaping tablespoonful flour, 1 pint cream. If the cream is thin, use an extra teaspoonful flour and 2 eggs, sugar, nutmeg, and salt to taste. That's it. I'm a pretty advanced cook, and I wouldn't even know what to do with that. If you are interested in reading my recipes, I've moved all of Thank Salt over to Substack. It's so nice there, full of people who love books. I'm sending out recipes, photos, and musings. And for now, all my free subscribers get the same full recipes and stories as my paid ones do. Like this podcast, support if you can, which you can do at buymeacoffee.com, linked in the show notes, but enjoy regardless. Now let's get to the old recipes, the ones that read like little poems. First, let's tell your mind it's time for sleep. Put away anything you were doing and snuggle deep into your sweet covers. Imagine the kitchen of your mind. There are 2 cupboards there. Yesterday's cupboard, for all of the things that have already happened that your mind wants to chew on. And tomorrow's cupboard, for all the things you're going to do or what's going to happen later. It's time to put everything away in those cupboards. Imagine closing each one. You made it. To this cozy, quiet time of day where there's nothing to do but listen to me read you old cookbooks until you drift off to sleep. We'll start with the desserts of March, when cherry blossoms remind us we're going to make it through another winter. March. 1. Lemon pudding. 1 pound of sugar, 1 pint of cream, 2 eggs, a little mace. Peel and juice of 2 fresh lemons. Bake in deep plates. 2. Bell fritters. Boil 1 pint of water with a piece of butter the size of an egg. When it boils, take it from the fire and stir in gradually 1 pint of flour, forming a paste. Add a pinch of salt. When quite cold, beat in 4 eggs, 1 at a time. Fry in boiling lard, dropping in teaspoonful at a time. The fritters should be all crust. Serve with some liquid sauce. 3. Jerusalem pudding. Cut 3 figs and 3 prunes into tiny pieces. Add to them a tablespoonful of preserved ginger syrup and cover with 1 gill of orange juice or sherry. Stand aside ½ hour. Cut 1 ounce of preserved ginger into tiny slices. Add it to the other fruit. Cover a ½ box of gelatin with a ½ cup of cold water and soak for ½ an hour. Whip 1 pint of cream to a good froth. Put it in a basin. Stand this in a pan of ice water. Add ½ cup powdered sugar, 1 teaspoonful of vanilla sugar, the fruit, and a ¼ cup boiled rice. Now add to the gelatin 1 gill of cream and stir it over hot water until dissolved. Strain it into the cream and gently stir from bottom and sides of basin until the whole is well mixed and beginning to stiffen. Turn in a mold and put in a cold place to slightly harden. Serve plain or with whipped cream around it. From Table Talk, Philadelphia. 4. Orange pudding. Slice 6 oranges and put in a deep dish. Sprinkle 1 cup of sugar over them. Make a custard of a pint of milk and yolks of 3 eggs. Tablespoonful cornstarch. Boil. Flavor with vanilla. Cool and pour over the oranges. Beat whites with 3 tablespoonfuls granulated sugar and put on top of custard and oranges and brown in the oven. To be eaten cold. 5. Moravian apple pie. Pare and core 6 even-sized apples carefully so as not to break them. Place on the stove in a covered saucepan with 1 teaspoonful of lemon juice, a very little of the yellow of the peel, 1 cup sugar, and enough water to cover the apples. Stew until tender and remove carefully that they may keep their shape. Line a pie dish with a thin crust of paste. Fill the bottom with peach or apple marmalade. Put in the apples and fill the cavities with marmalade. Put strips of crust across the top of the pie and bake in a quick oven. Serve with cream. From Table Talk, Philadelphia. 6. Graham pudding. 1 1/2 cups graham flour. 1/2 cup of molasses. 1/2 cup of milk. 1 teaspoonful cream tartar. 1/2 teaspoonful soda. Cinnamon. Cloves. Salt. Nutmeg. Fruit. Steam 3 hours. Serve hot. Sauce. Whites of 2 eggs. 1 cup of sugar beaten stiff. On this, pour 1 cup of boiling milk. Just before serving, add the juice of 1 lemon. Serve cold. 7. Snowballs number 2. Have pieces of cheesecloth about 6 inches square. Dust these thickly with flour. Have 1 for each ball required. Put 1 cup of rice into 1 quart of milk. Cook it slowly in a double boiler until the rice has absorbed the milk and all the grains are swollen. Then take 2 tablespoonfuls of the rice, put it in the center of the cloth so that the rice will be just the form of a ball. Stand this in the steamer and steam for 15 minutes. Untie the cloths, and the rice should be in perfect balls as white as snow. Table Talk, Philadelphia. 8. Burnt cream. From 1 quart of milk, take enough to blend thoroughly 3/4 of a cup of flour. Let the remainder of the milk come to a boil, and then pour it on the flour, stirring it well. When smooth, turn it back into the saucepan and let it boil until it thickens. Meantime, in another pot, an iron one is best, let 1 cup of brown sugar melt and brown, letting it burn according to taste. Into this pour the boiling milk and flour, and let all boil well up together and pour into a mold. When cold, serve with cream or pour whipped cream around it. 9. Fruit puddings. To roll. Roll out 1/2 inch thick of paste made of suet chopped fine, flour, water, and a little salt. Spread over it preserves of any small kind. Dust a little flour over it Roll up, wet and pinch the ends tight, and tie in a cloth which has been wet with cold water and floured. Steam 1 or 2 hours, according to taste. 10. Lemon frappe. Add 1 pound of sugar to 1 quart of water. Boil 3 minutes and skim. When cool, add the juice of 4 large lemons and the grated yellow rind of 2. Turn into a freezer. Pack with salt and ice, allowing 1 quart of salt to 10 pounds of ice. Turn the crank slowly and continuously until this mixture is half frozen and looks like wet snow. From Table Talk, Philadelphia. Potato rolls for dessert. Put 2 cups of mashed potatoes in the Keystone beater. Add half cup sugar, yolks of 2 eggs, tablespoonful of butter, half nutmeg grated, half teaspoonful cinnamon. Beat until the whole is thoroughly mixed and very light. Form in cylinder-shaped rolls. Dip in egg, then in breadcrumbs, and fry in smoking hot fat. Serve hot with vanilla sauce. Vanilla sauce. Put half pint milk in a double boiler to boil. Beat the yolks of 4 eggs with 2 tablespoonfuls of powdered sugar until very light, and add them to the scalding milk. Stir over the fire 1 minute, turn out to cool, add a teaspoonful vanilla, mix, and stand away until very cold. From Table Talk, Philadelphia. 12. Cranberry pudding. Sift well together 1 quart flour, 1 teaspoonful soda, 2 teaspoonfuls cream of tartar. Mix into soft dough with sweet milk. Roll in an oblong form and spread over it 1 quart of cranberries, sprinkled well with sugar. Dust with a little flour and roll over and over. Then tie in a pudding cloth and steam for an hour. Any fruit tart is nice made in the same way. 13. Rennet puffs. Heat 2 quarts milk until just lukewarm. Then add 2 tablespoonfuls of liquid rennet. Stand aside for 30 minutes until set. Then cut into blocks. Drain the curd from the whey and add to the curd half pound of butter, 1 cup stale breadcrumbs, 2 tablespoonfuls cream, half nutmeg grated, 2 tablespoonfuls sugar, and a teaspoonful vanilla. With a No. 1 Keystone beater, beat this mixture until very light. Butter small cups or patty pans. Fill 2/3 full of the mixture and bake in a moderately quick oven 15 minutes. Serve hot with a liquid pudding sauce. From Table Talk, Philadelphia. 14. Sago pudding. 1 teacup sago. Soak 2 hours in a quart of water. Then add a pinch of salt, 4 tablespoonfuls of sugar, and 8 large apples quartered. Bake 2 hours. 15. Date pudding. Beat 1 egg without separating until light. Add to it a little more than a gill of milk. Add 1 ounce of butter melted with 2 tablespoonfuls of water. Add sufficient flour, about 1 cup, to make a thick batter. The flour should have sifted with it 1 teaspoonful of baking powder. Stone a 1/4 pound of dates and chop them into small pieces. Dust them thickly with flour, stir them into the pudding, turn into a greased pan, and steam 1 1/4 hours. Orange sauce. Moisten 2 tablespoonfuls of flour with a little cold water. Then add 1 1/2 gills of boiling water. Add a half cup sugar. Cook over the fire about 1 minute Strain, return to the saucepan, and stand over the boiling water where it will keep scalding hot. Add the juice and grated rind of the orange, and when ready to serve, stir in the well-beaten whites of 2 eggs. From Table Talk, Philadelphia. 16. Cabinet pudding. 3 eggs, 3 tablespoonfuls of sugar, 2 cups milk, 1 saltspoonful salt, 1 cup fruit, raisins, currants, and citron mixed, 1 quart broken cake or bread and cracker crumbs, 1 tablespoonful of butter. Put together in the following form. Beat the eggs, add the sugar, salt, and milk. Next, measure the butter and use it all to butter the mold. Then add a layer of the broken cake, and then frost and repeat until all the cake is used. Then pour the custard over it and soak 2 hours. Steam 1.5 hours. Sauce. 1/2 cup butter, 1 cup sugar, 2 tablespoonfuls wine, and 2 of cream. Stir the butter until creamy, and add the sugar a little at a time. Set the bowl in hot water until the butter melts, but not the sugar, and serve. 17. English ice pudding. Boil 1/2 cup rice in a pint of water for half an hour. Then drain it and put in a farina boiler with 1 pint milk. Cook another half hour and pour through a fine sieve. Beat the yolks of 6 eggs and 1 cup of sugar together until light. Add them to the rice and milk. Cook for a moment. Take from the fire and add 1 tablespoonful vanilla extract or vanilla sugar. Turn this into a freezer and freeze. When frozen, stir in lightly 1 pint whipped cream, cover, pack, and stand aside for 2 hours. Cut 1/2 pint candied cherries into tiny pieces. Also 1 ounce of preserved ginger, and about 12 blanched almonds. Cover them with maraschino and stand aside for 15 or 20 minutes. Dip a 5-pint melon mold into cold water and line it with sponge or ladyfingers dipped in sherry. Sprinkle the fruit over this, and then turn in the pudding pack. Pack in salt and ice at least 2 hours. Table Talk, Philadelphia. 18. Cream pie. 1 heaping tablespoonful flour, 1 pint cream. If the cream is thin, use an extra teaspoonful of flour and 2 eggs, sugar, nutmeg, and salt to taste. 19. Curtis pudding. Mix with 1/2 pound grated bread, the same weight of chopped apples, the same of well-washed currants, 4 ounces finely chopped suet, 1/4 pound of fine, moist sugar, and 3 ounces of candied peel. Mix all well together with 4 well-beaten eggs. Put it into a well-buttered mold and boil for 5 hours. Table Talk, Philadelphia. 20. Watermelon cake. Beat 1 cup of butter to a cream. Add gradually 2.5 cups of sugar. Add 1 cup of lukewarm water, and then add 2 cups flour, then a heaping teaspoonful of baking powder. Also another cup of flour, making 4 in all. Now add the juice and rind of 1 lemon, and the well-beaten whites of 8 eggs. After these last ingredients have been well mixed, thoroughly heat, but do not heat too hard. Separate this mixture into 3 parts, having 1 full half and the remaining half divided into 2 parts. To one part, add chlorophyll. The other allow perfectly white. And to the large quantity, add sufficiently cochineal to make it pink. Grease the melon mold. Put in a layer of the green, then a layer of the white, and all the pink on top. Bake in a moderate oven for 3/4 of an hour. When done and cold, ice with green icing. From Table Talk, Philadelphia. 21. A fruit pudding. 4 cups of flour, 1 cup milk, 1 cup suet or large piece of butter, 1 cup chopped apple, 1 cup molasses, ½ cups chopped raisins, 1 teaspoonful soda. Boil 3 hours and serve with wine sauce. 22. Cream curls or ladylocks. These are made of thin strips of puff paste, rolled on ladylock sticks, and baked. Fill with whipped cream or with a custard like that made for cream cakes and eclairs. When made at the confectioner's, they are glazed as follows. When nearly baked, remove from the oven. Brush over with the beaten yolk of an egg, then return to the oven for a few minutes to set the glaze, watching carefully that they do not burn. Table Talk, Philadelphia. 23. Banana custard. Peel 6 large bananas. Beat them until reduced to a pulp. Add the yolks of 3 eggs well beaten, ½ cup of powdered sugar, 1 tablespoonful flour, and 1 cup cider. Beat all well together. Pour this into 2 pie tins that have been lined with good paste and bake in a quick oven for 30 minutes. Beat the whites to a stiff froth. Add 2 tablespoonfuls of powdered sugar. Mix. Heap on the pies. Return to the oven a moment to brown. Table Talk, Philadelphia. 24. Boston plum pudding. 1½ pound raisins, 1 loaf baker's bread, 1 nutmeg, 1 tablespoonful each of ginger, ground cinnamon, and ground cloves. Cut the bread into very thin slices and butter them very thick. Butter the bottoms and the sides of a porcelain dish. Put into it a layer of bread. Sprinkle some of the spice over it after they have been mixed together, then a layer of raisins, and so on until the dish is full. Take 1 quart milk and make it very sweet. Add to this 2 eggs well beaten. Pour this over the bread the evening before you use the pudding. Next morning, add to it 1 pint of milk, well sweetened, and 1 egg. Cover the dish and bake 2½ hours. To be eaten with wine sauce. 25. Chocolate pudding. Put 2 cups of stale bread coarsely crumbed into a well-greased melon mold. The mold may be first decorated with candied fruit. Put 1 pint milk over the fire in a double boiler. Beat 3 eggs with a cup of sugar until light. Add this to the hot milk. Stir over the fire until it thickens, then remove. Add 2 ounces of grated chocolate. Pour this while hot over the crumbs, and when cold, stir in 1 pint cream, whipped, and a teaspoonful vanilla sugar. Put the lid on the mold. Pack it in salt and ice for at least 2 hours. Half the quantity will be sufficient for 8 persons. Table Talk, Philadelphia. 26. Tapioca rouge. Soak 4 tablespoonfuls tapioca and boil until thick and clear. Stir into this, while boiling, a cup of red currant jelly. When thoroughly blended, put it into a mold to be eaten cold with cream. 27. Currant pudding. 1 cup finely chopped suet. 1 cup dried currants. 1/3 cup molasses. 2/3 cup milk or water. 1 teaspoonful allspice. Cloves and cinnamon mixed. 3 cups flour. Mix well and steam 3 hours. 28. Rice pudding. Put 2 tablespoonfuls of rice and 2 tablespoonfuls of sugar into 1 quart new milk. Stir until the sugar dissolves. Add a grating of nutmeg, and if you like, ½ cup raisins. Place the pan in the oven and cook very slowly, about 1½ hours, stirring the pudding every 2 minutes until the last half hour. If the oven is too hot, the pudding will be too thick. From Table Talk, Philadelphia. 29. Baked bananas. Strip a narrow piece of skin from the flat side of the banana. Place them in a baking pan this side up. Sprinkle thickly with granulated sugar and bake in a moderate oven until soft and tender. It requires about 30 minutes. Table Talk. 30. Apple pudding. 1/2 pound strained apples, 6 ounces sugar, 3 ounces butter, 6 eggs, a few spoonfuls of cream, 1 glass wine, spice to taste. 31. Soufflé pudding. 1 quart milk, 6 tablespoonfuls flour. Wet the flour with some of the cold milk and rub until it forms a smooth paste. Boil the rest of the milk. Pour it on the flour, stirring well. Then put it away to cool for several hours. When quite cold, add the yolks of 6 eggs, then the whites beaten very stiff. Beat the whole thoroughly until it becomes very light. Bake for ½ hour and serve with hard sauce. April. 1. Duchess cake with raspberry filling. Put ½ pint of water, 2 ounces butter on to boil. Then add 4 ounces flour. Stir until you have a thick paste. Take from the fire and add, one at a time, 4 eggs, mixing and heating each other before the other is added. Line baking pans with greased paper and take about ½ tablespoonful of the mixture and place it on an oval form, being careful that they do not touch each other. Brush them over with beaten egg and bake in a moderate oven for at least 30 or 35 minutes. When they are done, they'll be very light and hollow. Take them from the oven, make a hole through the middle, and fill the inside with raspberry jam. Ice the tops with soft icing, and when cold, they are ready to serve. From Table Talk, Philadelphia. 2. Dried peach custard. Stew dried peaches until perfectly soft. Stand aside to cool. When cold, beat with egg beater until smooth and light. Sweeten to taste. To every cup of this pulp, add 1 egg well beaten and ½ cup of milk. Beat all well together. Pour into pie tins, lined with a good plain paste. Bake in a quick oven 30 minutes. From Table Talk, Philadelphia. 3. Mulled rice. Take a large cup of rice. Wash and soak well. Put it on the fire with 2 quarts of milk. Let it cook slowly from 3 to 4 hours until it becomes a perfect cream. Make a sauce of a cup of white sugar, beaten thoroughly into 2 eggs and a glass of wine. Serve the rice hot. Pour the sauce over it and grate a little nutmeg over the top. 4. Claret punch. Squeeze the juice from a lemon. Cut up the rind and cover with 1 cup of granulated sugar. Let it stand for half hour. Mix with the juice and stir until the sugar is dissolved. Add 1 cup of claret and let it stand another half hour. Strain. Add another cup of claret, half cup pineapple syrup, and if desired, 1 bottle of soda. Sweeten to taste and serve very cold. From Tabletop, Philadelphia. 5. Frosted apples. Peel some pippins. Stew in a thin syrup till they become tender, but be careful they do not break. Dip in the white of an egg that has been whipped to a stiff froth and sift powdered sugar over them thickly. Place in a cool oven to candy and serve in a glass dish. From Table Talk, Philadelphia. 6. Washington pie with molasses filling. Beat the yolks of 2 eggs until light. Add to them half cup of light brown sugar and beat until creamy. Dissolve a teaspoonful of soda in a little hot water. Add it to 1/4 cup of sour cream and stir this into half a cup of New Orleans molasses. Mix well with the eggs and sugar. Add half teaspoonful of cinnamon, a grating of lemon peel, and 1½ cups of flour. Beat well. Stir in the whites of the eggs beaten to a stiff, dry froth, and turn at once into an oblong tin lined with paste. Bake 30 minutes in a moderate oven. When cool, ice with the following. Break the white of 1 egg into a bowl. Add half the white in water and 1 teaspoonful of lemon juice. Stir in confectioner's sugar until it pours thickly from a spoon. Beat until perfectly smooth. Ice the pie and stand away to harden. From Table Talk, Philadelphia. 7. Coconut bread pudding. Cover 1 cup of coconut with 1 quart of milk and soak 2 hours. Add 2 cups of breadcrumbs and 3 eggs beaten light without separating. Mix well, turn into a greased pudding dish, and bake 3/4 of an hour in a moderate oven. Serve cold with hard or any sauce. 8. Spanish puffs. 1 cup of boiled milk, 1 cup of flour, 4 eggs. Boil the milk well. Add the flour and stir until very smooth, and add eggs 1 at a time. Do not beat, but stir them in well. Drop in boiling lard and fry. Serve with maple syrup. 9. A sponge pudding. Butter a mold. Strew it thickly over with dried currants. Fill the mold 3/4 full with small sponge cakes soaked in wine. Fill it up with a rich custard, which must be cold. Cover the mold carefully and boil an hour. Turn out and serve with custard poured over it. 10. Plain batter pudding. 1 quart milk, 4 eggs, 6 spoonfuls of flour, a little salt. Bake 20 minutes. 11. Charlotte Russe. Cover 1/4 box of gelatin with 1/4 cup of cold water and let it stand for half hour. Dissolve over hot water. Scald 1 cup of milk and add 1 cup of granulated sugar and stir until it is dissolved and the milk looks blue. Beat 1 egg very light. Add to the milk, stirring all the while. Take from the fire, add to the dissolved gelatin, and stir again. Flavor with 1 teaspoonful of vanilla and put away to cool. Whip 1 pint of cream. Add it to the cooled custard. Turn it into a mold previously wet with cold water and stand away to harden. When ready to use, turn out and cover with stale macaroons. 12. Boiled fruit pudding. 1 quart crushed wheat. 1 teaspoonful cinnamon. Half teaspoonful cloves. 2 cupfuls sugar. 2 eggs. Half pound suet, chopped fine. 1 teaspoonful cream of tartar. Half teaspoonful soda. 1/4 cupful molasses. Half pound raisins, chopped fine. Citron, and 2 teaspoonfuls extract of lemon. Boil 2 hours. 13. Half-hour pudding. Boil 1½ pints of milk. Pour it over as many stale pieces of bread as it will soften. Let it stand 10 minutes and add 1 unbeaten egg, 1 tablespoonful of sugar, a little butter, salt, and nutmeg, 1 teaspoonful of cream of tartar, half teaspoonful of soda. Beat all well together and add the rest of the milk. Then stir in half cup of currants dusted with a little flour. Pour into a buttered bowl and steam ½ hour. Serve with a sauce. It is very nice without the currants. 14. Banana fritters. Cut 8 bananas in pieces. Make a French fritter batter as follows. Put 1 cup of flour into a bowl. Beat the yolks of 2 eggs. Add to them 2/3 of a cup of cold water. Then add this gradually to the flour, stirring all the while. It should form a smooth but rather liquid paste, but at the same time have enough consistency to adhere to the bananas. Add a tablespoonful of olive oil, the well-beaten whites of the eggs, and a level teaspoonful of baking powder. Mix carefully. Cover the bananas with this paste and drop them into smoking hot lard, and when a bright golden color, drain, sprinkle with powdered sugar, and serve. 15. Orange Bavarian cream. Cover 3/4 of a box of gelatin with 1/2 cup cold water. Soak it for a ½ hour. Stir 1 pound of sugar into 1 quart of orange juice until the sugar is thoroughly dissolved. Then strain this into a basin. Stand the gelatin over a kettle of hot water until thoroughly melted. Strain it into the orange juice and stir carefully until the mixture begins to congeal. Then add 1½ pints cream whipped to a stiff froth. This must be stirred very carefully from the bottom and sides of the pan until the mixture is one color. That is, until all streaks of yellow disappear. Turn into your pudding mold and stand away overnight. This may be served perfectly plain or may be served with whipped cream heaped around it. 16. Mysura pudding. 4 tablespoonfuls Mysura stirred into 2 eggs and milk enough to make it smooth. Heat 1 quart milk in a double boiler, and just before it boils, stir in the above, constantly stirring until it thickens. Remove from the fire and flavor. To be eaten cold with cream or milk and sugar. 17. Fruit balls. Chop 2 ounces of suet rather fine, having first freed it from shreds. Add to this twice the quantity of breadcrumbs. That is, after you have chopped the suet, take twice the quantity of crumbs. Add the white of 1 egg, ½ cup chopped raisins, ½ cup currants, and a few pieces of citron. If it is now moist, form into balls the size of a walnut. If they are at all dry, add the white of another egg. Have ready a kettle of boiling water. Drop the balls in and cook slowly until they come to the surface. Lift carefully with a skimmer, dish, and pour over them a rich brandy sauce made with the yolks of the eggs. 18. Nesselrode pudding. Shell 3 cups of French or Italian chestnuts. Carefully remove the brown skin, then simmer for 30 minutes or until soft. Drain, press through a colander, cut 1 pound of French candied fruit in small pieces, and cover with 1 wineglass of sherry. Boil 2 cups of sugar and 1 cup of water for 15 minutes. Beat the yolks of 4 eggs very light, then beat them into the boiling syrup. Stir over the fire until it again reaches the boiling point, then remove and beat while cooling, adding 1 pint of cream whipped to a stiff froth, the fruit, wine, and 1 teaspoonful of vanilla. Turn into a freezer and freeze. When frozen, pack and stand away to ripen. 19. Arrowroot pudding. Mix 4 spoonfuls of arrowroot with a teacupful of new milk. Then boil nearly a quart of milk and stir in the arrowroot. When nearly cold, add 2 well-beaten eggs, 2 spoonfuls of melted butter, sugar to taste, and a little nutmeg. Bake about 20 minutes. 20. German toast. Cut the bread in rather thick slices. Beat 2 eggs, light without separating, and add to them 1 pint of milk, heating all the while. Grease a hot griddle or frying pan with butter. Dip the bread in the milk and eggs and fry on both sides to a delicate brown. 21. Claret jelly. A package of gelatin soaked in a pint of cold water, juice of 3 lemons, and grated peel of 1, a pint of claret, sugar to taste. Pour over these a quart of boiling water. Stir until dissolved and strain into molds previously wet with cold water. 22. Florentines. Boil half cup of rice in 2 quarts of water until tender, or for about 20 minutes. Drain until thoroughly dry. Beat 4 eggs without separating until light. Add half cup of sugar and beat again until light. Then add 1 pint of milk, 1 tablespoonful of vanilla, and the boiled rice. Line 2 pie dishes with a good light paste. Cover the bottom of the dishes with seeded raisins. Fill with the rice mixture and bake in a quick oven about 30 minutes or until the custard is solid. Beat the whites of 2 eggs until light. Add 2 tablespoonfuls of powdered sugar and beat again until very stiff. Spread a thin covering of this mixture over the pie. Dust with powdered sugar. Put back in the oven and bake until a golden brown. Serve when cold. 23. Chocolate custard. 3 ounces baker's chocolate, 2 pints of milk, 4 tablespoonfuls white sugar, 2 tablespoonfuls brown sugar. Prepare a soft custard of the milk and the yolks of 5 eggs in the white of 1. Dissolve the chocolate in a cup of warm milk and heat it to a boiling point. When cool, sweeten with brown sugar and flavor with vanilla. Pour the whole into a dish and cover with the whites of 5 eggs, beaten stiff with a little sugar. Brown slightly and serve cold. 24. Spanish cream. Put 1/3 of a box of gelatin to soak in 1/3 cup of cold water. Separate 4 eggs. Put 1 pint of milk in a farina boiler. Beat the yolks of the eggs with half cup of sugar until light. Add them to the hot milk. Stir for a minute. Take from the fire and stand aside to cool. Beat the whites of the eggs to a stiff froth. Add 3/4 of a cup of boiling water to the gelatin, strained, and the whites of the eggs. Stir all together and turn into a mold. This should settle into 3 layers and is a very pretty and attractive pudding. 25. Lemon custard. Separate 3 eggs. Beat the yolks and add gradually 1 cup of granulated sugar. Put a rounding tablespoonful of flour into a bowl and add gradually, mixing all the while, half pint of milk. Add the grated yellow rind and juice of 1 lemon to the yolks and sugar. Beat until thoroughly mixed. Now add the milk and flour. Stir until the sugar is dissolved. Let stand in a cold place 20 minutes, and it is ready to use. 26. Coconut pudding. 1 quart of milk. Half a coconut grated. 4 eggs. A little salt and sugar to taste. Bake in a quick oven about 30 minutes. Serve with sauce. 27. Pineapple pie. Beat half cup of butter and a cup of sugar to a cream. Add the yolks of 5 eggs and beat again. Then add 1 good-sized pineapple grated, 1 cup of sweet cream, and the whites of the eggs beaten to a stiff froth. Line a deep pie dish with light paste. Fill with the mixture and bake in a quick oven about 30 minutes. If canned pineapple is used, half the given quantity of sugar will be sufficient. 28. Sultana roll. Make the ice cream as follows. Scald 1 pint of milk. Add 1 cup of sugar, 1 level tablespoonful of flour rubbed smooth with a little cold milk, and 1 egg beaten without separating. Cook 20 minutes. Add 1 saltspoonful of salt. Strain and cool. Add 1 quart of whipped cream. Flavor with 1 tablespoonful of vanilla and 1 tablespoonful extract of almond. Color with leaf green and freeze. When frozen, line a mold with the cream and sprinkle with sultana raisins, which have been soaked several hours in brandy. Fill the center of the mold with 1 pint of cream whipped to a stiff, dry froth, sweetened with half a cup of powdered sugar, and flavored with 1 teaspoonful of vanilla. Cover the mold, pack in ice and salt, and let stand for 2 hours. Serve with claret sauce. Claret sauce. Put 1 cup of sugar with half a cup of water in a saucepan over the fire. Stir until the sugar is dissolved, then boil until it thickens slightly. Cool and add 4 tablespoonfuls of claret. 29. Tapioca cream pudding. 1 cup of tapioca soaked overnight in cold water. Boil 1 quart of milk and stir in the tapioca. Boil 10 minutes, stirring all the time. Dissolve 1 tablespoonful of cornstarch in half cup of milk. Add the beaten yolks of 4 eggs and stir into the tapioca. Add a little salt, sweeten to taste, and boil up once. Flavor to taste. Beat the whites of 4 eggs and 2 tablespoonfuls of sugar. Flavor, Spread over the pudding and brown in oven. 30. Bread meringue. Beat the yolks of 4 eggs light. Add gradually 1 cup of granulated sugar, beating all the while, and the grated rind of 1 lemon. Mix 1 pint of breadcrumbs with 1 quart of milk. Pour this on the eggs and sugar. Mix well and bake in a moderate oven until stiff. When done, make a meringue of the whites of 2 eggs and 4 tablespoonfuls of powdered sugar. Put on the pudding and brown in a quick oven. Sweet dreams.